and I'm looking at it and I'm like, bro, I caved my frame in on the bottom. It's still the same bike. I just hole shotted everybody on it. It's just a caved in stock frame.
Take some time and list them out. Tell me what the companies are, what they do. Like, give them like a proper plug. Like, explain those companies, because I think it's really cool to hear from you. You know, like what you've been able to make happen.
Yeah. So, well, I'll give the biggest plug to Tank Masters, because that's what everybody's been talking about, the bonus situation and whatnot. They're a really great family out of New York. They deal with removing, replacing, and the environmental side of oil tanks for like energy and whatnot in homes.
Yeah.
So replacing oil tanks, if something cracks and it, obviously the oil leaks into the ground, the environmental side of things. So they are an awesome family out there. They don't really stress too much about what they're getting out of, sponsoring me. They just love it. They're a family an entire company that just loves what I have going on, the program. They saw it through the vlogs and then they jumped on board kind of deal.
That's so sick.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Obviously, Redline Oil is one of the bigger ones too. That's an oil company within the industry. They jumped on board last year, built a program, and had kind of a separate thing from my team with them at some of the races. And then this year was able to incorporate them within our next level racing team, which is our transportation team, and kind of get all the other privateers hooked up with Redline Oil too. So like that was a really cool kind of combination. Gree Comfort, which is a air conditioning company. That's probably the next biggest one. They've been on board for the last 3 or 4 years. Shout out to my man, Sean Yoho, who's a local guy by me, who's kind of like a dealer for them, who made the contacts and the connections to make that happen. And it was actually funny. Like I was in the hotel this weekend for Phoenix, and the air conditioning unit in my hotel was Gree. So I was like, dude, that's sweet. So that one was really cool. The Champion Tool Storage jumped on big this year too. Barry Material Handling, which is actually my dad's company. So my dad is a forklift technician at Barry Material, and so the CEO boss of that had seen everything that I had going on and like saw the jump from even last year to this, or from let's say 2020 to 2021, or no, 2021 to 2022. They're like, oh, like what do we need to do to get even further into 2023 kind of deal? I was like, I sat him down. I was like, dude, the biggest thing is I'm going to stay on the old model just because the new model's too hard to get my hands on right now. And I don't know what parts are going to be available for them.
And the old bike feels better to me.
Yeah. I mean, I've never even ridden the new bike.
Oh,
that's
really?
the thing. And that's what I mean, like, yo, Roger, boys, hook it up. Your boys pulling starts on your guys' bikes. Like, just put me on a stock 23. You know what I mean? Help the boy out. But
the old bike's pretty sick. The old bike's good still.
Yeah. So, and that's why I stayed on it, is because I had all the parts for it, right?
Yeah,
I have a little parts collection, Mika Metals, Flow Motorsports. There's, Race Tech Titanium. There's a bunch of different stuff that's obviously for them. But the biggest thing was suspension had changed, right? So I think the forks overlay, but the shocks didn't. And I always ran the stock shock. I ran the stock shock for the last 3 years, all the way through Arena Cross, through the last 3 years of Supercross. And I've always wanted to try the race or the A-kit shock. I just never had the opportunity, never had the funds, never had anything like that. So that was the one thing that I talked to Barry Material about.
Huge difference.
It's like, this is what I need. Yeah, I was like, this is what I need. I want to get X amount of A-kit shocks because I need to have one on the practice bike, race bike, and then one to like kind of fluctuate in through there and rotate. And so they jumped on board to help me get that funding. And it's been a game changer for me this year. I really think so. So it was moving from the stock shock to an A-kit shock. The biggest thing is just the way it handles in the whoops, right? So I had a lot of teeter-totter sensation, which I have a long way to go. But little backstory on this is when I was going into testing that for the first time, I had the stuff that I had from Supercross last year. So my personal best was P15 at the very last round in Salt Lake City. So I took that suspension, had it reserviced, exact same settings, put it on the shelf, went through outdoors. After outdoors, come to test for Supercross, I knew I wanted to do this whole shock situation. So I had that fresh set of suspension, put it on the bike, got used to Supercross again, and was testing with that, and had the A-kit shock right there too. Went through the whoops at my house, which I had Dirtworks come out. That's the whole situation for the Pulp MX race. Ended up doing good in that. Put that money directly back into the program for a track at my house because I'm in Kansas. Closest track to me is Reynolds, which is in Oklahoma. 4.5 hour drive there. Yeah, 4.5 hour drive one way. Like I can't go there for a day and come back. Like I have to go there for a week. Then I'm couch surfing or finding somewhere to stay, or I'm in California or Florida couch surfing as well. I was like, we have a little track in our house, and I was like, we did a whole 2-part thing. It's actually kind of cool if people want to check it on YouTube. Just Kevin Moran's. But we had track build 1, where right after Supercross, I rented equipment. Everybody came to my house and had the Blaufus family, which is a family back in Kansas, kind of talked me into just getting the process started. Had a couple other people jump on board, and we flattened everything that we had. So we took down a X amount of trees and pushed a bunch of dirt, just made it flat. So then part 2 was after outdoors. I hired Dirtworks to come out and rented all the equipment for them to come out and build with. And then boom, it was a whole construction video of them building the track at my house, which is pretty sweet. So, but anyway, went through the whoops, stock suspension, came off, changed it, literally went straight to the whoops, went 1 lap through the whoops, stomped on my brakes, shut the bike off, and screamed out, "What the F?"
Yeah.
I was like, it's that big of a difference from me going from a stock shock to an A-kit shock production, what I can buy. What is the difference to the factory suspension that I can't even get my hands on? You know what I mean? Like, that's the situation that I'm in, which obviously I'm having so much fun in my program that I'm not stressing the factory ride. Like, I'm not pissed off at the world. I'm not pissed off at the industry. I believe I have a lot of potential, and I'm gradually showing that. I would have to say probably haven't shown enough that, Red Bull KTM's come to sign me. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I know that I have a lot more potential in me just from a change like that, the change that you've seen from me this year, the mental state that I can have on the starts, in racing, and everything in general, not necessarily, working to not be scared of the dudes that I'm racing with. And that's clear for me this year, which is super good. So yeah, I don't know. Very excited. Love what I have going. Think I have a lot of potential, and we'll just kind of keep rolling with it.
Man, it's cool that you had that direct experience with changing to an A-kit shock. Like, people just they don't like, even it's funny. So I was at the track the other day, and so I just bought a gas 450 here. I got so lucky. I bought this thing secondhand, and it had cone valves, forks, and the track's rear shock. So like, I just had this thing. And shout out to my boy Mark Johnson. He's at AEO. He used to work for factory KTM when Dunge was there, and like when I was kind of around that whole KTM world. And he sent me like setting front and rear. It's like incredible. And so I was riding with this guy Ollie, who's like a local dude out here, and we were talking about like who should get factory suspension or like A-kit. And I'm like, dude, honestly, the slower you are, like the shitter you are at riding, the more you need factory suspension. Like the dudes that are like really, really, really good, they can kind of like ride around like anything, but it actually is that much of a difference. And like, if you can afford it, then you should just 100% do it, because there is like a crazy difference. But for you, dude, like going through the thing with the KTM shocks, for like the people that would listen that would want to know what the difference is, like the level at which the shock heats up, like the oil in the shock heats up in a stock shock, riding a Supercross track for 20 laps is just out of control. Like, you almost have no rebound, or like, I mean, you still have compression from the spring, but the biggest thing you lose is like rebound, essentially, because when the shock's coming out, the oil's so thin and hot that it just doesn't have the same viscosity. So it's like the level of stoke that you would have had by going to a normal shock, not just for the handling, but even the fact that your bike would have stayed rideable for 20 laps.
Yeah, like, through the whoops was the biggest thing that I was struggling with. And, I got to give a plug to Decker Suspension out of Kansas City. He's the one that, helped me make that transition, because I was running Race Tech stuff last year, and they don't really deal with the A-kit shocks a bunch. So that's why we made the transition to going to WP settings, which obviously I think would help me a little bit more when it comes to at least at the beginning of the year, my hopes of getting some support through KTM. Like, obviously not riding their bike or anything like that, but I was like, KTM, stock KTM, the whole image behind them is ready to race, right? Like, that's their saying. Your boy is the spitting image of that. Yeah. Because the bike is the exact same way I bought it. It's got a Recluse clutch, FMF pipe. It's got Redline oil in it. and that's it. Like that's literally all that's done to my bike, and VP race fuel.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I've done. So I was expecting, like, hey, if we can go out, show that we can get up front, at least do better, main events all year and get everything like that, if they would give me some kind of parts allowance or, some support here and there. But it's been pretty much nothing so far. But hey, we're still striving for it. You know what I mean?
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.